Yes, here.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Mr. Koh, for your remarks. It's very much a privilege to hear from you and to hear your comments and your vision for the Legal Advisor's Office, and likewise, Mr. Bellinger. Thank you for your remarks. My name is Allison McKinney. I'm an international human rights lawyer, and I've spent the better part of my career in sub-Saharan Africa advocating for women's property rights. So I'd like to ask about the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Is the microphone presenting a problem? I'd like to ask about the issue of U.S. ratification of CEDAW, and specifically, I was wondering, Mr. Koh, if you could please comment on the advisability and the significance of U.S. ratification of this international human rights treaty. I've heard Trafficking in Persons Ambassador Lou DeVaca say that it's a priority for the Obama administration, but I've likewise heard that the Legal Advisor's Office can take different levels of involvement with various treaty processes. So we'd just be interested in hearing anything you can share on your vision for how your office will approach the debates surrounding U.S. ratification of CEDAW.
Well, I testified in favor of ratification of the CEDAW when I was Assistant Secretary for Human Rights in 1999. And I testified for ratification of the CEDAW as a professor the next time it came up, which I think was in 2004. Now, I'm the legal advisor, I have not changed my view at all. It's a national disgrace that we have not ratified this treaty. My mother is born in Korea. She would be entitled to the protections of the treaty. My wife's family is from Ireland. If in Ireland, they would be entitled. My daughter, born in the United States, not entitled to the protections of this treaty. I don't understand it. Nevertheless, the treaty has a kind of resonance in the Senate that has made it complicated and difficult to address. And as we pointed out, getting to 67 is the critical question. When I clerked at the Supreme Court, Justice Brennan would call the clerks together and say, these are the most important things you can know about being on the court. And we'd say, what do you mean, your fingers? He said, no, the number 5. Whatever may be our core commitments, the bottom line with regard to the Senate is 67. And I think those who believe that we should ratify the treaty need to figure out a way to work with us to get to the number 67. Now, you could not have an administration more committed on this issue. Secretary Clinton has been a passionate advocate of this question. Melan Verveer, our ambassador on global women's issues, have been working on this. Mike Posner, Assistant Secretary for Human Rights. And so this will, and the Vice President, Joe Biden, was himself one of the architects of the Violence Against Women Act in the Senate. So I think that the real challenge, though, is that we have a supermajority rule. And getting to a supermajority is difficult. I'll give you an example. Robert Bork was soundly defeated for a Supreme Court confirmation, and he had 42 votes. Now, to defeat a treaty, you need 34 votes. In fact, you need to get a group of people together to get the treaty to the floor and then get the 67 votes organized. And it has been a major effort to find the sources and bases of this issue. I think an even more egregious example is the Convention on the Rights of the Child, where now, if Somalia proceeds with its efforts to ratify, we will be the only country in the world that's not a party. And a big part of the explanation is the supermajority rule. Now, just as a little bit of history, the United States has been slow to ratify human rights treaties. The Genocide Convention was first signed in 1949, and we didn't finally ratify until 1986. I think there were 5 different runs at getting it done. And so over time, this does end up happening. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, again, took many turns of the wheel before it got there. So I would say my own position has not changed one bit. In the legal advisor's office, I see colleagues of mine who share exactly my views. I think the question, this falls in the zone that I was describing and that John and I are both lamenting, but which is part of our constitutional process. You end up with a treaty that has to be advised and consented to by 67 senators.